so joined in a community of worship. One God. All equal before God, all united in this place of prayer. Each individual soul joined in a community of worship. One God.
وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. Praise be to God, and I bear witness that there is only one God, Allah. Looks like the rain is delaying a number of people, so I'm going to start with the less important subjects and keep the important subjects to the second khutbah. In this khutbah, I want to talk about the subject for the Muslim perspective that we will be preparing, inshallah, in the next few days. One important subject is, I don't know if it's a new idea, but it's an idea called universal unity. And I'm abbreviating it U and U, universal unity, through devotion to God alone. The idea is that the Protestants are fighting the Catholics in Ireland, the Jews are fighting the Muslims in the Middle East, the Hindus are fighting the Sikhs in India, the Sunnis and Shias are fighting each other in Iran and Iraq. And there is one thing in common among all those people: the Protestants, the Catholics, the Hindus, the Sikhs, the Muslims, the Sunnis, the Shias. This one common bond is belief in God. They all believe in God. So it dawned on me that if we rise above the human factors, if the human race rises above the human factors, such as Jesus, Mary, Muhammad, the saints, and so on, they will be united. There will be no reason to be different. The reason the Sunnis are fighting the Shias is because they reverence different imams, human factors. The reason the Protestants are fighting the Catholics is Martin Luther, a human factor. The reason the Mormons are Mormons is Joseph Smith, and so on. So it is these human factors, Muhammad, Jesus, Mary, Joseph Smith, and so on, that cause the differences. If we focus on the one common linkage, that is belief in God, we will have one objective to love, one objective to worship, one and the same. So this is why I called it universal unity. I finished a video program a couple of days ago. The shooting of it. I'll be editing it in the next 2 weeks, and inshallah we'll be showing it in Washington, D.C., in New York, Boston, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Los Angeles, the major centers. And Chicago, we got Chicago also. So the program will emphasize these points of differences and the one point of unity, and I will be asking them to get together with us in promoting universal unity. The complete name is Universal Unity Through Devotion to God Alone. And by the way, we're going to change this sign out there. While studying this subject, I realized that you can submit to somebody while hating his guts. So submission is not really a good word. Devotion is a positive word. So we're going to change the sign and make it happiness is devotion to God alone. This is a product of this universal unity idea. This is one subject. And I'm going to put this in the Muslim perspective, on the back page. On the front page, I'm going to talk about polygamy, which is a very popular subject. I had a call from New York, Sayyida Ahmed, most of you know her, and they're having a big problem with New York Muslims abusing the law, God's law, polygamy. So I want to start off by saying that we have laws, divine laws in the Quran. Polygamy is one of them. It is God's law, it is allowed. But I want to say that when we abuse God's law, any of God's laws, the retribution is really not worth it. The retribution is severe. We can't cheat ourselves and justify things for ourselves. But when we look at the subject of polygamy, our example is the Prophet Muhammad. Sometimes they accuse us that we do not follow the example of the Prophet, and this is a lie. But our example here, a perfect example, is the Prophet Muhammad. He had one wife until she died. For 25 years he had one wife. All his youth, from the age of 25 to 50. He had only one wife, he had all his children from her except one. And after Khadija died, he married widows of his friends who had children to give them his name. He had a couple of political marriages that were actually forced on him. Abu Bakr told him, you have to marry my daughter, you must marry my daughter. So he married Aisha. And they lie, they say that he married Aisha when she was 9. Well, even now, when a girl is born in a family, they name her husband to be. When she's still 9 hours old. She's going to marry, some cousin. So this is happening now, and this is what happened with Aisha, but he did not marry her until she was a mature woman. That was a political marriage. Another political marriage was his friend Omar, who told him, you've got to marry my daughter, Hafsa, also. But his marriages, after Khadija died, were all to alleviate sorrow. So here is an important criterion for polygamy, is that you alleviate sorrow, you do not create sorrow. I'm going to put this in that perspective. So somebody who wants to use this law has to be very careful not to abuse it. And he has to use this criterion. Am I creating sorrow or alleviating sorrow? Will there be creation of pain or removal of pain? This is one thing. Am I driven by lust or am I driven by charitable feelings? We are very special people. We are people who decided to worship God alone and follow His laws. And we have to be the harshest on ourselves. So I'm going to write this on the front page of the Muslim Perspective. I think these are all the criteria I could think of, but I think we don't need to say any more once we think of the example of the Prophet, especially that he was living in a society where polygamy was a way of life. And every man had 20, 30 wives, 200 wives, depending on how rich he was. It was a way of life in the society. Where in this society it is not a way of life. It is even illegal according to the laws of this country. But the law is being abused everywhere. I hear examples from everywhere in the country by Muslims. And they're paying dearly because abusing God's law. When you become a Muslim, you know better. When you know better, the responsibility is multiplied many-fold, and the retribution is really severe. It's not worth it. Tubu ilallah, repent. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. The important subject I want to talk about in this khutbah is I was reading the Bible, preparing this book about Jesus, and in one place Jesus tells the people, your problem is that you do not know God. And this happens to be the problem right now. People do not know God. So I'm going to review with you some scientific facts that you already know. Because if we know God, we will understand why every page of the Quran says God alone, worship God alone. And we'll understand the blasphemy of putting human creatures anywhere near God. We live in something called the solar system. And our sun is 93 million miles away. 93 million miles away. This is 93,000 times as much as from here to New York. 93,000 times. Going to New York and coming back 93,000 times. That is how far the sun is from us. The light of the sun takes 4 minutes to reach us. That's the speed of light. 93 million miles in 4 minutes. The solar system has 12 planets, maybe more, that they haven't discovered yet. And the sun and the 12 planets around it occupy a distance that goes to 4 billion miles. Okay, 4,000 millions of miles. This is our solar system. Our sun is a star, and in our universe there are a billion trillion stars. This is stated clearly in the Quran when God says in Surah 40 that the creation of the heavens is a lot more difficult than the creation of the human being. If you can imagine that. But see, we have a billion trillion heavenly bodies, only stars. Because there are uncountable decillions of other heavenly bodies associated with those stars. A billion trillion stars in 1 billion galaxies. All these are scientific facts. 1 billion galaxies. Our galaxy is called the Milky Way galaxy. And our next door galaxy is 2 million light years away. Okay, that's next door. If you live 2 million years and travel at the speed of light, doing nothing else, just traveling at the speed of light, you will go next door galaxy in 2 million years. There are a billion of those, billion galaxies. And we learn from Quran that these, now by the way, it will take you something like 100 billion years to just count them, not create them. Just to count the stars. They do it scientifically by taking a picture at random of the sky and counting what's in the picture and then multiplying by they calculate the circumference of the earth and the visible stars. This is how but if you count them they take 1 second per star to count. It will take you 100 billion years, day and night, without stopping, just to count them. Now all this we're told in Quran is in the smallest and the innermost of 7 universes. So all this vastness is in the smallest universe. Imagine 7 balls inside each other. The second universe is bigger. The third is bigger than the 2. The third universe, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th. Can you imagine the circumference of the 7th universe? How long is it? The circumference. There is no number that can describe that. We do not have, at the time of the Quran revelation, they didn't count beyond 1,000. And now, with our computers, we do not have a number that will, even if you estimate the differences between the 7 universes, and being very conservative, you still will not have a number that will describe the circumference of the 7th universe in light years or millions of light years. Infinity would be the closest and most honest description of the circumference of the 7th universe. If you go to the edge of our solar system, the Earth will be almost invisible. You have to use very, very powerful telescopes in our solar system. If you go to the edge of our galaxy, the earth is absolutely invisible. And on this earth walked a man called Jesus or Muhammad. So the people do not know God. They are unaware of who God is. Because this infinity, the circumference of the seventh universe, we're told in Surah 39, is held within God's right hand. This allegorical description, being withheld within God's right hand, is to tell us how big God is, how great God is, and who God is. Because it is not held within His hands. There's a difference between holding something like this or like this, inside. How much space do you have inside your hand? God is great. And because of this greatness, God is capable of treating you as if you're the only creature in the universe. God has that capability, and He does. He's closer to you personally than your jugular vein. God is great. We cannot understand or encompass the greatness of God. God is capable of treating every ant as if it is the only creature in the universe. Can you imagine the circulatory system of the ant? The heart of the ant? It does have a heart, and it beats. It's not like our heart, but it does have a heart. It has a circulatory system. And God controls that as if it is the only creature in the universe. So when God says in Surah 53, God is the one who makes you happy or miserable, God is the one who makes you rich or poor, and when we raise the new understanding, which is absolutely essential for you to go to heaven, namely, God is doing everything. We need to know who God is to understand and appreciate that statement. God is doing everything. The only thing we do is choose to be with God or with Satan. This is it. After that, God takes over. And God makes you rich or poor, happy or miserable. God is doing everything. However, misery comes from Satan, but God, in accordance with God's will. So the ultimate doer is God, and we bring the misery on ourselves. We choose to put our finger in the fire or not. So when it hurts, it's because we chose to put our finger in the fire, and it is God's law that when you put your finger in the fire, it hurts. So we bring the pain on ourselves. So if you have any problem of any kind, you just have to ask yourself, why do I have this problem? And you have to dig and find out why and remove the reasons. You have to be honest with yourself. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله